Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really excited about this topic and enthusiastic for an opportunity to share some real-life solutions that are happening out there in the world and that are not about building long-term roadmaps, but actually about how do we create impact today and where we're seeing some of those results. Taking some lessons learned as well, an opportunity for us to take these experiences and apply them in other cities and other parts of the world, but also within other industries and other sectors. So I think it's an important opportunity for us to learn from a real customer. I'm Mary Wilson, and I'm the Global Sustainability Lead from the partner organization here at AWS. And so what that means is I have the great honor of looking across all AWS partners and the organizations that are building solutions on AWS for sustainability outcomes. So looking at how do we learn from those sustainability projects that have already shown some success? How do we bring those successes to other customers? And how do we then expand on what some industries are doing? How do we untangle what might be considered an industry-specific solution? How do we pull that, those lessons learned, that opportunity for more sustainability outcomes? How do we bring that to the attention of other AWS customers and ensure that they are leveraging the technology, they're leveraging those learnings. And so we're excited today for an opportunity to share some of that. A little bit about the commitment that Amazon, that AWS have made around sustainability. We do have our sustainability annual report that will be coming out in the next couple of months, so watch for that. If you haven't already seen, we've been releasing these for the last 3 years, and it's an important document, I think, that shows the level of commitment that we have as an organization. It also shows where we are looking at those sustainability outcomes and sharing some of those lessons learned. Obviously, there's a large effort around collaborating, this collaboration model, not just within our own organization, but also with our supply chains, with our partners. And so I think there's an opportunity there as well to share some of those lessons learned. The Climate Pledge is another initiative that I'm really excited about because what we're looking to do is work together to build with Global Optimism. This is a project we kicked off in 2019 with them. An opportunity for companies to start looking across their own sustainability initiatives and creating, again, that opportunity to share, to drive some of these initiatives, to look at how can we better leverage the technology, especially as we look at how the data is going to be driving some of the visibility and transparency, accreditation, validation for things like sustainability outcomes, for just understanding exactly what your initiatives look like today for ESG, environmental, social, and governance impact, but also when we're looking at how do we drive those greater initiatives across industry sectors? So where we see things like electric vehicles and with auto manufacturers and with the utility companies, how are we leveraging the sustainability initiatives across those different sectors? So as AWS, as Amazon, Climate Pledge is really looking at bringing those types of thought leaders, that kind of opportunity to share and collaborate together. And then we also have the $2 billion Climate Pledge Fund. So this is an opportunity for that innovation that's happening. We're looking at how do we help to support and develop that innovation? How do we ensure that across not just technology, but across different innovation? How do we ensure that they're receiving the opportunity to do some proof of concepts, to expand on what their research is showing for those sustainability outcomes? So those are some initiatives that we have. We are looking at our own goals of, with the Climate Pledge, of being net zero by 2040. That means in having all of our operations powered with renewable energy, and we are hitting that goal early, so watch for that as part of our report coming out soon. So that's a little bit about what AWS is doing, a little bit about Amazon.com, but I wanted to obviously introduce our partners because I think the most exciting thing that we can do here at AWS is highlight where the successes are happening, where the sustainability outcomes are being driven, and who are those leaders that have some experiences to share with you. So I will pass to Michael and give him an opportunity to tell a little bit about what Rubicon is doing, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Mary. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Just a quick show of hands. How many folks are from the public sector, maybe working in cities or state governments? Terrific. So Terrence is the main show here today. He is going to give us a customer story, but I did want to quickly introduce Rubicon, the technology company that runs on AWS and that the city of Washington, D.C., and now over 75 other cities use to power various municipal fleets, starting with solid waste. So quickly, Rubicon is a digital marketplace. You probably didn't know this, but that is a thing, a digital marketplace for waste and recycling. We are the largest in the world, and we manage the waste portfolios of many of the nation's biggest brands. Think Best Buy, Chipotle, Starbucks, all of these big retailers. So we're behind the scenes working with those commercial customers to live our mission, which is to end waste. So we're a waste management technology company trying to end waste, keep materials out of landfills. We developed a product called Rubicon Smart City that really spoke to our mission of ending waste and also to our B Corp certification. As a B Corp, we're committed to not just doing well as a business, but doing good for the planet. And we said, well, we need to expand beyond businesses or commercial waste to residential waste, the waste at your homes. And we need to develop a product and a partnership system for government, right? The rest of the economy. So Rubicon Smart City was born. It's been deployed in over 75 cities, as I mentioned. We have lots of patents related to it, and it's a really cool technology that I'll quickly tell you about. So what is Rubicon Smart City? It's technology that goes into garbage trucks and increasingly other fleets as well, like snowplows and street sweepers, and feeds back from those trucks to a portal and kind of a dashboard that city leaders like Terrence use to run better city operations. So the 3 bullet points of what does the tech do? Drive taxpayer savings, right? And you should all care about that. Ideally, you all pay your taxes and you want to know that they're being spent well. So deliver a core service like picking up the trash more efficiently for less money, take less time to do it, but also do it really well. So that's number 1. Number 2, that the tech delivers on the promise of better recycling. We've all been recycling, right? Since the 70s, everyone has the bins. What goes where? Well, the big issue with recycling is contamination. You put the wrong thing in the wrong bucket, you throw pizza in there, next thing you know, it's all going to a landfill. We need to stop that for the sake of the planet to deliver on our goals of zero waste, fewer emissions. Landfills emit methane. It's worse than carbon. There are these big leaching climate change horrors in our communities, and they're usually in low-income areas. So how do we start to reduce material going to landfill? One way is to reduce contamination in the recycling stream, get more of that material recycled and into a circular use. Our tech helps with that. And thirdly, and I think this is my term, the coolest thing, is, and why we called it Smart City and not Smart Waste, is we look at the garbage truck and think about the garbage truck in your community. It goes up and down every street of every city in the world at least once a week, right? It's the only vehicle, maybe the Postal Service vehicle as well, but we're going to stick with the garbage truck. And we said, what else could that truck look for while it's picking up your waste or your recycling? Well, that truck could be transformed into a roaming data collection center. It could be transformed into an infrastructure assessment tool. In plain English, it could look for a pothole. It could look for an overflowing waste bin. It could look for illegally dumped tires. It could look for those very things that show that a community is moving in the wrong direction, kind of the broken windows of a community, before they go from being a nuisance to becoming a crisis. So kind of a 2-for-1 proposition. So taxpayer savings, improve recycling, improve quality of life. So Terrence and these other wonderful city partners are putting this vision into action using our technology, which you saw featured on the previous slide. And of course, again, that technology runs on AWS. We build things like computer vision models to look for potholes, right? So we have a camera that's out there looking for a pothole. We built that in AWS SageMaker as an example. So our partnership with AWS is a very robust one. We approach cities together for conversations. We build our products in their ecosystem. We market together. It's an incredible partnership, and we have lots of partners that we work with, but the partnership with AWS is different because we share this commitment to improving quality of life in communities, and these folks really do demonstrate that. So in DC, and I'm going to hand it off to Terrence now, you get an idea of the scope of the engagement. So 65 in-cab interfaces, that means our app that sits in their garbage truck, some telematics devices, some cameras, and they're out there collecting data to help Terrence's city, the city we're in right now, improve the routing of vehicles, improve the overall experience of getting your waste picked up, and ultimately to bring about better outcomes in terms of recycling. The last thing I'll say is, you don't think about your garbage pickup until it's not picked up, right? And Terrence and his team are making sure it happens with a regular cadence. So over to you, my friend.
All right. Good morning. Good. I was looking for that. My experience, I used to kind of lead a church, the youth group in the church, so I always, that call and response, so I'm glad I got a response. Thank you. So just briefly, I'll talk about my experience with Rubicon. So prior to coming over to DPW, I worked at the Office of the Chief Technology Officer for 17 years. And part of that job was to run a smart city lab, and we ran it from like 2016 to 2017, 2018. So when I came over to DPW, I had this task of trying to bring some innovation to the agency. So one of my tasks was digitizing this manual paper process. So as you can see here, we have 270 trash and recycling routes. So by digitizing the routes, we're reducing paper, making our operations more efficient. We got a little bit of pushback because, of course, people are used to doing things a certain way, and if they've been doing it for 10 plus years, they don't want to change. So that was a bit of a task, but we were able to do it through a lot of hard work and a lot of effort and a lot of collaboration. Through that digitization of the paper process, we're estimating that we're saving a little over $10,000 as it is right now. But as we scale and we do more of the digitization in other departments in solid waste, we can see that grow exponentially. And I know in other cities, they've saved, maybe Kansas City, Michael? $2 million in paper usage. So that's something that the city, even when I was at Okta, we try to consolidate printing contracts. That way we can cut the actual amount that we're spending on paper. And then digitizing our routes, it allows us to be more flexible. If there's any type of interruptions, like say if there's an alley that's being blocked or staff shortage. And hate to say it, with the pandemic, we had to deal with staff shortages quite often and frequently. Even holidays, I like to say, if anyone lives in the city here, I know we probably have some city residents, that there's a holiday that could be an impact to trash pickup, and then you're calling 311, and we got to figure out how we can get resources out there to do it. Rubicon was able to, it's made that process a lot easier for us. Waste audit, this is something pretty cool. So our Office of Waste Diversion, they had this project where they were going to go out and start tagging contaminated recycling bins. So if you are a resident and say you mix some bottles of some paper, maybe you didn't rinse out one of the bottles good enough, you may have gotten that orange tag on your bin. They used they had some third-party application that they partnered with a vendor to build, and they had some issues rolling it out. So I knew we had a component in Rubicon that would allow us to do the waste audit. If you go to our story map, hopefully you guys can capture this, you can actually do a slide view to show what was done prior to the audit and then after, and then how we were able to go into those communities and kind of change the behavior. So you saw a lot of people who were getting flagged. We would come back maybe 2 weeks, a month later, and we had much cleaner recycling. This is pretty cool. The story map is really nice. This is another component that we use the Rubicon platform for. So prior to Rubicon coming in, holiday tree collection was a nightmare, right? We would send out a tweet, you would throw your tree out on the sidewalk, and hopefully it gets picked up. So with Rubicon, what we did was we said, all right, well, we already have the trucks going out, we already have our drivers signed in, so why don't you tag that tree at the point of collection? So then all the data is being stored in the platform. We can create dynamic routes, and then we have a yard waste team or a separate team. They weren't actually picking up waste. They can go use the system, follow the route, follow the trails, and pick up the tree. And then they can actually count the number of trees we're actually picking up. That way we create a baseline. That way we know next year where the points were, and then we can already have these routes already built and ready to go once Christmas is out of here. Sorry to say that. And then increased efficiency of daily operations. So normally, prior to Rubicon, I'll say pre-Rubicon and after, a lot of things were done on paper, right? So information wasn't real time. They would have to bring these paper sheets back in. Someone would have to manually enter the data in. As of now, we can tag issues at the curb. Trash and recycling service, we can monitor it in the system real time. So you can see start to end, how long it's taken for these routes to be completed. You can see vehicle location. So this is key. If there's any incident of a safety incident, or say a vehicle is idling, a supervisor can go in real time. Yep, I see somebody clapping about that. DOEE probably, right? You can actually call up the driver to say, hey, why are you idling? You need to get moving. I mentioned route time, route tonnage. Before we would get these route tickets, and they would manually put that information in. They can take a picture of the waste ticket now, and that information is already in the system, and it's already being calculated. And then the driver view for conditions and problems. So all of that information, all of the information is already in this platform that you can see real time. I've done it myself when my director has said, hey, Terrence, where's this vehicle located? Or we got a complaint about a vehicle maybe collecting trash a little early. I was able to go in the system and say, all right, it's vehicle 34123445. And it was actually in this location at this time, or it wasn't in the location at the time. So the system is really resilient, and it gives you information at your fingertips. Next, route completion information and reports. I won't read through this, I'll speak naturally here. So one of the benefits of the system for me was KPIs. So before, we really didn't have a way of measuring KPIs on the back end. We did, but it was a lot of manual operation, a lot of people writing down things on pen and paper, and then you have to rely on data entry being clean to actually get some data that's actionable, right? So in less than 5 minutes, right, I went to this data export section, and it gave me a fully actionable, it gave me all the metadata, but it rolled up to KPIs. So it showed me that I hit 85% of the routes at a certain amount of time. We had a certain amount of issues. We have 140,000 stops. We had 10,000 issues. So it's able to quantify and roll all that information up. So for an executive, you can actually see a snapshot of it. And then for anyone who wants to, maybe sift around in the metadata, it's available there for them too. I think that's it.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. And I'll pass it back on?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's it. I guess we'll, sorry.
No worries. Thank you so much for joining today. I don't know how much time we have. I'm looking for a clock, and I don't have my watch on for Q&A.
About 8 minutes.
Yeah, we have a few minutes. So if there's any questions, anybody wants to learn more about Rubicon or Terrence's projects, I'm happy to take some questions.
Yeah.
They're coming around with a microphone for you. Yeah. Thanks.
It merits a microphone, but I'll try to make it sound
Thank
better
you.
than it was. A couple of questions. One is I wondered if we could go back to the slide with the story map. I didn't capture that.
Oh.
My second question was for Rubicon. Can you tell us some of the other cities you're working in? I'm from Atlanta, and it seems like something we could use. If we're not using it yet, please. And in the city. And also, what do you do? Another question for Rubicon about rural areas where there isn't trash collection every day, so it's kind of a less traveled at this point. I mean, is there a way to expand that infrastructure and use
You
your
did very well
technology
with the microphone.
there?
All right, we've
Yeah.
got it all. Did we get the story map first?
I'm not sure
We got
which
to do
one is
that.
the story.
So, well, thank you
Yep.
for your
Yep.
question. So, some of the cities we are working in now, Memphis, Tennessee, Baltimore, right up the road, Hartford, Scranton, Houston. We're really proud of that. Fleetwide in Houston. And the list goes on and on. Phoenix, we'll be working in shortly. Glendale, Arizona. So I can give you a full list. But Atlanta specifically was our first customer. And yes, so we were long an Atlanta-based company. So Atlanta, and it's a testament to your mayor, two mayors ago, who took a chance on us, and much as Amazon did or AWS did. When our tech was in its infancy, that city said, your city said, we'd like to co-innovate with you. So we will build this product with you. So much of the product that Terrence uses and that we just talked about was built in Atlanta by your Public Works Department with us. And I will tell you, we helped you save $700,000 a year, and it wasn't, I should clarify, Kansas City didn't save $2 million in printing costs. That might have taken your breath away. They saved $2 million overall in their operation, of which a portion was printing costs. But Atlanta saw $700,000 a year in better routing. And as importantly, from an environmental perspective, 180 tons of recyclable material in Atlanta were incorrectly going to a landfill. So we helped identify that issue and get that material to the recycling facility. Yep. So we are hopeful to continue that partnership with y'all. And then you had one other question, which was rural areas. So our company, I mentioned, working with big brands, right? One brand I didn't mention, but I think many of you will nod, is Dollar General. It's the largest dollar store in, I guess, the world. And it is located in every nook and cranny of America. Every rural area it is, there's a church, there might be a McDonald's, and there's certainly a Dollar General. And so we service every Dollar General in the United States of America. So as a result, we have a hauler network of over 8,000 haulers, some of whom are municipal governments that work for us on commercial accounts. The vast majority are private companies, and so we have coverage in all of those places. No, thank you for your question.
I think.
Sure.
Yeah, just a quick one for Terrence. The identifying when vehicles are idling. I'm always curious about sort of the change management and the culture change. I know the tech works. How was that received? Like, how did you, that particular piece is of interest to me.
Well, I'll speak. So when we do get any type of inquiry about an idling vehicle, we try to pass it on to either we call them white shirts, so supervisors or managers, and then there is a report that we can actually look at. So if my team usually is always looking at it, and we try to pass that information on to those white shirts before it becomes an issue, because we don't want a resident reporting it to us through 311. We rather be proactive and catch that type of behavior before it really becomes a problem. So I know the system also has a little dashboard in the pocket of it, right? I mean, in the little right-hand corner, that'll highlight some of those instances. So if there's hard braking or an acceleration or anything, the telematics on that device, the telemetry on the telematics device presents itself to you. So I think the next phase for us is really pulling in our fleet management administration. So we have these different administrations in DPW. So solid waste is the focal point right now, but we have to pull in fleet management, have them looking at it real time, looking at it all the time, and then they can go and say, hey, this vehicle has a problem, and if people are idling too much, then that also can create more maintenance issues as well. So I think that's the vision for us. That's the next step that we're going to get into.
And I think that's actually a very interesting point, because coming from an environmental perspective, when you think of carbon emissions, by having fleet management, routing optimization, you're able to manage when trucks are rolling and where they're going. There's also a factor of eliminating carbon emissions there as well. So all of that planning and all of that infrastructure and pulling all of those different requirements together, it's about having a smarter city, it's about having a cleaner city and a better citizen services.
Absolutely.
Go? Okay. He said I should ask another question, so.
You're very good at it.
So I'm looking at what is an ESRI, or like an overlay on using ESRI. So I'm wondering how you use that big data, which you just alluded to. Like, how do you aggregate that in a way that other cities might use it to either prepare for Rubicon or at least understand some of the lessons learned that Mr. Goins kind of, shared, like the white shirts and getting it.
Yeah.
So, like, how do we, I don't want to say socialize the product, but how do you bring that product to, for example, a rural town isn't necessarily going to have the infrastructure for you to go in there, but maybe they can benefit from it. Is that clear?
You want to go for it? I guess.
Yeah, for us, and I will give a shout out to my team. We had, I'll mention them by name quickly. David, I won't mention last names, but David, Nikeshi, Yomi, Brendan, Mark, and Earl. So we actually made sure that our points of collection, we tried to clean it up as much as possible before we even presented it and gave it to Rubicon. So that was a big part of it. So as clean as the data goes in, that way it'll cut down on the amount of time on trying to realign the points of collection, and then getting those white shirts and also getting the frontline employees involved up front. Like, we went and actually, before we did the pilot, we went and we went to Atlanta, and then we did a lot of, it took a while, it took 3 years, but we just kept pressing, and once we finally got it in, it automatically just took off. I knew it could scale from the beginning. It just took some convincing, like some of the drivers were tech adverse, right? I'm not using a phone or anything, but I'll tell this story. It was a gentleman who had a Bluetooth earpiece in his ear. I said, are you kidding me? I said, all right, well, you got this mobile phone. I said, what is the Bluetooth earpiece connected to? He said, well, my mobile phone is right here. I said, we're just asking you to do the same thing to help your job. And it's going to help give you the information where if constituents are saying that you're missing their house, then you can tag that exception at the curb. And then we're not going to say we're not picking it up, but we're just going to educate the constituents to say, have your trash out at this time. We'll come back and pick it up. And we're also collecting this data, and then we can actually streamline these operations so we're not doing a bunch of go-backs as well. So we're going to reduce the go-backs, reduce carbon footprint, reduce our emissions, and be more sustainable.
And just to piggyback on that, I know our time's running down. We have a data upload template, right, to get in the weeds for a minute. So when a city wants to partner with us, either as a customer or before that as a pilot participant, and the overwhelming number of cities we work with try us out first in this national pilot program we run, we spend a lot of time making sure that the data that comes in is in the best state possible, so that when we flip the on switch, it's a great experience for the customer and we can actually show value. So, I would say from a business perspective, we need that to go faster. 3 years is not the norm, I want to be clear. It is getting faster and faster. And as we work with more big cities, like the ones I mentioned, we're able to share those experiences and some of the shortcuts, right? We've built a whole kind of national network now of cities. We just convened in New York last week, 17 of our cities together. They now talk to one another and they share best practices on how to use Rubicon in the best way, either in a pilot or as a customer. And when you are a customer, how to do things like Terrence was talking about, which is expand the possibility of what you can do with it. Holiday tree collection as an example.
Yep. One more.
Looks like one more question.
Hey, hi, quick one. So how are you pricing the solution for the agencies? Is it like endpoint-based pricing? Is it more outcome-based pricing? How are you pricing the solution?
Pricing it?
Yeah.
We price, it varies a little bit, but it's essentially on the number of trucks that are involved in the deployment and the number of component pieces of hardware. But as a business, we are moving, and we want to see our cities do this, and it's why the cloud is so important, towards BYOD, bring your own device, right? So we're not a hardware company, so we'll happily sell you a phone, a telematics device, a camera, but ideally you could bring those things yourself, because you as city governments can procure them for pennies on the dollar compared to what we can procure them for, and then you're just buying a software license for us, from us. We're very different than pretty much every other company in this space in that there is just one cost. If you have 1,000 licenses or 1,000 logins versus one, it's one cost. The mayor can log in all the way to the 311 operator. So for us, this is the cost, trucks, number of hardware, and that's that.
Can I?
Yeah.
And then for us, we looked at purchasing the telematic devices from Rubicon, but we already had a partnership with Geotab, so we just saved money there where we already had a certain amount of pods already in the vehicles, and then we just set up an integration, an API integration, and exchanged information that way. And before I forget, I excluded someone's name on the team, Fatima.
Oh, yeah.
She was integral in getting this Rubicon project. And the 3 years was not on Rubicon. I would say it was it was on the agency just trying to get everybody together. But it was less than 3. It was 2 years and then the pandemic. So, but once it took off, it really took off. So.
Great.
All right.
Thanks. I think we have to wrap up. We have to let the room for the
Thank
next
you all.
presenters. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, team.